Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's season 3 of the Social Biller, and there's a bunch of us here. So, hello, everyone. Welcome. Yep. Easy done. Welcome back to the Social Pillar, everyone. The ongoing conversation about role-playing games, their values, their crafts, cultures, and our wonderful community around the world. My name's Jared, also known as the GM Chef. And before we get started, as always, I'd like to acknowledge that we are coming to you from Aboriginal land. I'm coming to you from Ku-ring-gai land, and we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are streaming to you from, and pay our respects to elders, past and present, and extend those respects to any First Nations people who are watching. Introducing my fellow hosts, Thea, how are you?
I am so well. It is such a pleasure to be here. Literally such a pleasure to be here. Nobody saw the mad panic rush. I literally slid into the seat. We pressed the live button and I was here, and I'm currently being dragged back by D and Dog. I am also known as OMGM. Run a lot of games online. It is so lovely to be back with these beautiful human beings. Speaking of beautiful human beings, Ian.
Hey Thea. Hey Jared, and hello to our guests who we'll introduce in just a sec. Hey guys. Really good to be here. I've got brand new, very powerful new microphone going on here. I'm loving every moment of it. So good to be back and bring up the conversation again, but it was a really good break just to be able to say that, and it's so good just to be able to take care of yourself for a while. Looking forward to this. Hi everyone, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ian Zammit. I'm part of Roleplay Experience. I like to pull together games and people to help nourish themselves through story, and just looking forward to this. No more about me, because we'll be able to talk in a moment. Jared, I'll pass to you to introduce our guest for tonight.
It's Bryce. It's my friend Bryce.
Hey.
This is Bryce, a wonderful human being, a excellent dungeon master, especially when it comes to Call of Cthulhu. I played one session with him. It was terrifying, and I kind of don't ever want to play again. Bryce, how are you?
Oh, wow.
You haven't ever played again.
I have never played since that one session because I was actually... No, I don't want to go into it.
I've never been able to scare someone so thoroughly. It's something I absolutely take pride and joy in.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm Bryce. I'm otherwise known as the Keeper of Stories and Secrets, and it's a bit of a play on the Call of Cthulhu. Instead of having a game master, you have the Keeper of Arcane Lore, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. That's me. I know, it's great.
It's great. So I have banded
It's exciting, new people.
Yeah, I've banded these eclectic group of individuals together because we obviously talk about tabletop role-playing games, and something that I also am passionate about is video games, and I love role-playing video games. I've always attracted me to I've always been attracted to that genre, and I've always understood that they had a foundation in this whole mysterious tabletop role-playing thing that I didn't play until much after I had access to video games and consoles and things like that. So I wanted to kind of peel back the veil of the history of, I guess, the influence, not so much the history, but the influence of like what makes a role-playing game, where did it come from, and where are we today with obviously the sensational release of Baldur's Gate 3, what I personally find to be a shining example of not only what a really good video game should be, but doing it right across the board, from the whole storytelling of it, everything they've done, the system, fantastic. So we'll touch on that later, but I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about is obviously role-playing games have been around for almost 50 years next year. And obviously that was before widespread technology.
Woo.
Yeah. So that's a thing that's actually happening. But effectively, as soon as we had like more and more technology, like online forums, and as soon as that became in the home kind of access, we were able to communicate via the internet, and I have no doubt, you know, role-playing games and forums and stuff like that started popping up because you could play by post, and you could say, this is what my character did in this action, I rolled this dice, and then people can just in their own time go and check these out, and you can do tabletop role-playing game rules. But I actually dipped my feet into just forum role-playing, where you just come up with a character and you just tell stories with other people as their characters, and that's good fun. but video games effectively have a program. They have a pre-written story, and you make choices along the way. So it's different, but we want to talk about how tabletop role-playing and gaming mechanics, I guess, are translated into new technology across the board. So anyone have
Super
a cool
exciting.
story of like a really good role-playing moment that kind of hit the same buttons as tabletop
dog.
role-playing, or like
We're going to get a lot of
anything that
D&D
wasn't,
dog
like,
interruptions.
strictly-
D&D dog
Yeah,
really wants to sell his part of tabletop
he
role
is
playing.
part of it. He has a
He's
character.
excited for season 3.
I love you all. Give me a moment.
No worries, go for it. Bryce, what would you say is like a fond video game role-playing moment, and would you say that you could try and get that in a tabletop role-playing game? Do you think it's the same, comparable in any way?
It is and it isn't. A video game can offer a lot more in terms of visuals for narrative storytelling from for a solo player experience. Speaking of Call of Cthulhu, you have games like The Sinking City. You've actually got the Call of Cthulhu, the official video game for it, or the other Call of Cthulhu games where you actually have choices you can make to lead to different outcomes. And the visuals that the game can give you sort of replace the DM explanations of the rooms that you'd enter, or the monsters or the enemies that you'd face, which you would normally have via imagination or via little miniatures and stuff like that. So while games have the score, the music, the visuals to showcase the story and all that, tabletop role playing has the flexibility and imagination that most games don't have, because most games, they are a hard-coded story that has X, Y, Z in terms of a linear progression. Whereas a tabletop, you could muck around for, 30 sessions if you really want in the starting area and not progress anywhere. And
you can go. That's the thing, is that role-playing games take you anywhere. And I guess video games, while they can paint a far more vivid picture and a far more intimate experience, you're definitely getting a predefined someone else's, construct of what it could be. And like the story is going to be, like you said, somewhat linear. And touching on like games like Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age, Witcher and things like that, they try and make it like more open world so that you can do that, right? And I guess even games like Red Dead Redemption, they are, and Grand Theft Auto and all of these things where you create an avatar and you add your personality and you get to play in your own flavor, I guess.
Yeah, you have those things where, speaking of Grand Theft Auto, you've got Grand Theft Auto RP, which you can have
very popular,
seen on Twitch and stuff like that. Like where people take the game, take the multiplayer aspect, and then they create their own stories using the game's engine and the game's, whatever the game can offer to tell their own stories. So there's goods and not really goods and bads. There are
just different
certain things the game can do and certain things that a tabletop can do.
It's limited.
I think it's really interesting, that point you bring up. Am I muted again? Because I haven't listened to that. No.
We can hear you.
No, you're not muted.
You can't hear DM dog. That's okay.
Dang, you can hear the dog. I was going to say it's an interesting comparison when you talk about sort of what video games can offer versus what tabletop could offer around that sort of sandbox, because I think the visuals that you can get out of a video game, no matter what virtual tabletop you're using, it's very difficult to replicate that. And I think that appeals to a lot of people who perhaps wouldn't get into that kind of role-playing aspect without that visual element. And yet at the same time, there's the sandbox is still only so big that you will get at some point, you are going to hit you are leaving the mission area.
Yeah. You'll hit a limit box.
And you can wander into, I mean, again, like the organic world of like a role-playing game as well. You can wander into areas that you're not really meant to. You know, you can wander into the dangerous ways. The classic sort of setup for a basic adventure is players start in a town. There's a little threat around the town, bigger threats outside, and you build your world around that. But again, like role-playing game, GTA as an example, you can just wander into the army bases, and that's just not advisable. So, you know. It's things like that as well.
I'll bring a story up about that as well. It's like I've got history all the way back from the 80s when The Bard's Tale was an amazing RPG you could play, which is text-based.
Wow.
Text-based.
I remember text-based games.
Fantastic, because it still had, because it was words being used, there was a lot of interpretation and your own imagination you could use for it, which then led into, of course, the 90s. I didn't get to play things like Calls of Radiance, a D&D specific video game, and there was a bunch of others. Curse of the Azure Bonds was another one, which was huge, and then Baldur's Gate came along in the 90s, and that was the visual aspect.
Yeah.
As soon as the millennium came around and the visual aspect came in, like with Diablo and other games like that, it changed what video games were kind of expected to be in a way, I feel. But then that was still pretty limited. Like you were saying, there's a limit to the world and what you can do in it. But the one that got me was Dragon Age. There was how amazing that was. And there's a mate of mine who's a journalist as well, and in theatre, but he also played this game, and he became known on Twitter for a very specific storyline that he got involved in, because it was about this dog that he picked up along the way. And it became his partner, and the hell he went through to try and keep this dog alive, because it kept following him on missions when he didn't want it to, but he felt he should keep it alive. This had nothing to do with the missions of the game, but it was something that actually kind of came into it, which is, for me, like the essence of a TTRPG, you know, let alone a video game. The power the current games have now to be able to kind of push those boundaries is pretty amazing. And I haven't played as many as a number of friends of mine. So I'm fascinated hearing, like, you know, like with GTA or Red Dead Redemption.
Fallout.
Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout 4, it's just, you have a dog. Congratulations. What do you do with it? It's a dog. It'll just follow you now. Yeah. The lengths I went to for that dog.
I don't think you're the only one.
I have to find there's a whole there's an article about it. I'll see if I can find it and put it in afterwards as well, so you can read it. It's hilarious. It's fantastic.
That would be good.
But it's changing, isn't it? It's really evolving.
Absolutely. I'm kind of noticing, especially just now as we're reflecting, I think when it comes to modern video games and role-playing games, we expect a bit more. Like, I have a fond heart of text-based role-playing games where you say, it says, where do you want to go? North. That's bad. Buh. And you just do that, and, you know, it's almost like almost like a choose your own adventure book. Like, it basically is, but a digital form of that, and it progressed, you know, things progressed until we got graphics and then Oregon Trail and, you know, and more options and different outcomes, and that branch of the story expanded. But I think video game designers can't just like use the graphics and sound and the beautiful input experience when there isn't intelligent storytelling behind it. So there's a moment in Baldur's Gate 3, there's a beautiful bard, she's trying to sing her song. You know, there's an opportunity there for a dynamic kind of a role play. You can either say it's great or it's bad, and you actually really feel for this person. So it's not even a spoiler. Like, you will find this beautiful bard who's trying to sing her song, and it has meaning and soul and all of this behind it. Now that directly translates to a tabletop role-playing game. It's you know, and the reason like games like Baldur's Gate, Fallout, Skyrim and these things is they give you these dialogue options, and I think that's a really, really powerful way to make a more intimate kind of a world, because you feel like you are actually communicating with the characters a bit more rather than and then we go to the
speech bubbles. Here's your quest.
You know, like JRPGs, they will do a lot of that because it's more about, I guess, the strategy and the epicness, but the dialogue is more or less fixed.
And it's interesting, actually, because that's some of the criticism that came out with Andromeda. the follow-up to Why Is My Brain Not Working? Shepherd, Garrus.
Mass
Thank
Effect,
you, Mass
yes.
Effect. Mass Effect Andromeda.
When you
So
said
Mass
Andro-
Effect is,
I knew-
yeah. Went in a different direction. Yeah, I know. I'm come on, just read my mind.
With that
But Mass Effect, that was a huge role-playing game because it gave you a lot of choices and it gave you a lot of that customization of your character. One of the big criticisms of Andromeda when it came out was that they took away a lot of the role-playing elements and the dialogue options that you had. One didn't always reflect what you chose, but they were far more limited, and it didn't actually matter what you chose because the story was still much more on rails. Yeah.
Much more guideline.
Well,
Still
you
people
can't-
saying
you
they
can't give that
reckon
and
2 is the
take it
best
away.
because of it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the thing though.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of giving people options and then taking it away. So, but like, what else did the video game bring? And yeah, I don't know. Like again, like Red Dead Redemption and stuff like that. Like you have so many choices, and I feel like the power of choice is so pivotal to why role-playing games hit home, because you are deciding what your character does, an agency.
There's a very big thing that we've kind of all glossed over, I think, is that video games have a certain limit to them, being file size, being graphics quality, being just price, all these things, and the amount of time that has to go into making it is that you can trade graphics for dialogue options. You can trade the dialogue options for better performance. It's a very delicate balancing act to wrap together this nice little package that is all yay verily for the gamer while still telling a good story, but you can't appease everyone.
Yeah.
I think that's actually a really interesting point about TTRPGs versus video games, is that you have to have an ending that is pre-written for your video game that will never please everybody. Whereas in the tabletops, because you've got that freedom, you're still never going to please everybody, let's be honest.
A good example of that, I think, is an amazing role-playing game on video game, The Last of Us. And that was immersive as anything, like more than many games. It changed everything. But particularly the second, I think a lot of people there were a lot of people who still are very upset with the end of the first one. But the second one in particular, there's no spoilers going into it, really threw people.
Yeah.
But that's a narrative choice. And look, I'm coming from a performing arts background as well. So it's like part of the reason I love TTRPGs. I love theatre, but there's a bit of an auteur. You're telling a story and the audience is listening to it and they're like loving it, but you're kind of in control, and there's no changing really for what's going to happen. And that's kind of a bit more what video games are. There's, especially if you want to get into that real depth of richness of story, it's very hard to go beyond the limits of that, because there's only so many believable reactions that'll come out of it that you can then create on the screen. Otherwise it chews up all the terabytes basically. You just don't have the space.
So there's a question I have for the three of you. What game do you reckon out of all the RPGs ever made is the closest to tabletop? The absolute closest, in terms of breadth, in terms of how far you could push out the possibilities of limitless possibilities.
Who'd like to take this one?
I have a somewhat controversial nomination. Undertale.
Yeah.
I don't know it.
So Undertale is not a particularly graphically complex. It's actually pixel art. It has, I don't remember how many endings, but it has a lot, and it tracks all of your choices to go towards those endings. It's a linear game, but it is, I actually think that one is probably the closest you could come to tabletop, because it also has genuine consequences. You get the bad ending, the very bad ending, you never get a good ending again.
Yeah, it locks you out.
It locks you out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You should definitely have a look at it, Ian. Search it up after this.
Undertale.
Yeah.
It's
Very,
a bit of
very,
it's an indie
very. The
masterpiece, to be
replayability
honest.
of Undertale is
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
you,
gonna
Jared?
My vote.
go the obvious direction and say Skyrim, or pretty much most of the Bethesda games. You know, with what is it, Starfinder?
Mm-hmm.
Is that no? That's the Pathfinder. thing. Not Star Citizen.
Starfield. Starfield
But also
coming
not
out
Starcraft.
in less than a
Starcraft.
month.
Like,
Actually, it's coming out on
If they're
September
talking
6th.
I mean, actually, I'm going to completely change my answer. No Man's Sky.
That was going to be mine.
Yeah.
Oh, No Man's Sky. Which,
Absolutely.
the original
I was-
No
I was
Man's Sky or the
I was-
updated?
Updated.
Yeah.
It's the updated
Okay.
where they've actually fleshed it out. You can actually engage and do things, because I played it when it first came out, and it was like, go to different planets and look at dumb randomly generated stuff. It's actually a game now. And yeah, I mean, that actually gives you, again, like, it does leave you in a kind of odd situation. Like, you can't really do this in maybe a tabletop role-playing game. Here's an interesting thought. Tabletop role-playing games, you kind of actually have to engage with it to move the story forward, right? The whole, like, fluffing around and doing stuff, you are still playing the game. Whereas in something like that, you can probably just spend a bunch of time mining an entire planet if you really wanted to. But are you going to go and trade? Are you going to meet new aliens? Are you going to look at the artifacts? Are you going to understand the lore and the history? And are you going to discover technology, upgrade your ship? That's just a bunch of things that you can do. But you could also just go and mine a freaking planet. Like, you can do that. So you don't do that in D&D out of respect for everyone that you're playing with. So I think we're coming to like a space where, out of mutual respect for everyone else, it's just, you know, people will do what they
You
do.
look like you have
But
a response to that.
There's just boundaries.
There are. But have you ever had the game where your players spent the entire episode in a hat shop? I may be reliving some trauma here. However,
No, toy shop, but not.
hat shop
some
is a
shopping
very
issues here.
specific reference, I
I will
understand.
play the shopping
but yeah.
scenes.
Well, I guess if I have an answer for this, because I'm not sure if I do, I actually just wanted to throw again to our chat, guys. So good to see you out there. It's good to be back. Would love to hear your thoughts as well. What you think is kind of a video game RPG you feel really represents TTRPGs. I actually don't have a lot of wealth to draw on, because I never really got into the video game RPG kind of world. I did, as I said, Bard's Tale a long time ago. I had a distinctly, probably not healthy relationship with Diablo 2, which I just completely got addicted to for many years. But that's so not an RPG experience for me. Like TTRPG, that it's so limited. It is very much, farming. That's pretty much it. But it's like, I love the answers that are given here. I thought when you said No Man's Sky, that made me think of it as well, because that's continually evolving, which is probably part of the thing there. And I guess for me, a lot of the TTRPG experience is that whole idea of exploration, and it adapts to the players that you have. A video game can't ever quite do that, because it's always going to be dictated by whatever the designers have come in to say, this is the experience we want people to have. So there is that dictation to it. And I think that's what people want out of a video game. You want to have a genre, you want to have a visual experience, or you want it to be very psychologically immersive. Or if it's more of a JRPG, you want the strategy. You want to be able to get into that and have the
Persona 5,
the hair flying and the
Final Fantasy.
You want that experience, So I don't think it can ever adapt quite as much to the players, to a group. But I don't think that's the point of it, though. I think that's,
It's
so
interesting.
unfortunately, I don't have an answer. Sorry.
I want to pick up on that, because I think that's really interesting. Yeah, because one of the things that we kind of sparked this conversation was looking at when we take tabletop RPGs like, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, and turn that into a video game. And I wonder about the level of expectations people bring to that, because we have, a lot of people, well, everybody who's going to play a video game RPG has a lot of literacy with video games. So I wonder how their people who play a lot of tabletop and then move to a video game version of a tabletop feel. And I know both Jared and Bryce, you've both played a tabletop that has become a video game based on Dungeons and Dragons. Baldur's Gate.
Yes.
How was the switch for you? Did you play one first? Did you have expectations? Did you expect something different? How do?
Bryce, I'll throw it in because I got answers for days.
Okay. I personally have never played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2. But when I came to Baldur's Gate 3, previously I played one of the previous games from Larian Studios called Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2. And from there, I saw the similarities from that game. They've just thrown everything with Dungeons and Dragons literally into that system, and they've included dice rolls, advantages, disadvantages, modifiers. They've thrown all the different things you can do, and the width and breadth of what you can do inside of a D&D tabletop RPG into a game, which is really interesting. See, so it was a very exciting experience when I first launched it up, and to see all these things being told and shown, and the mechanics being similar shown inside of a game. Where I'm going, oh my god, they have this! Oh my god, they have advantage! Oh my god, they have inspiration! Oh my god, they've got this! You know?
Yeah.
Like the excitement of recognizing those mechanics.
Yeah. And the similarities between the two. It was very, very, very exciting to begin with, and it hasn't lost any of the charm.
I was going to pick up on that to begin with. I was like, what happened?
Oh, you face a couple of owlbears and then it starts to get serious.
Yeah. How many times did we try and fight those giant spiders in early access? Oh my god. Many times.
That's a lot.
Not really. But yes, I think almost like it like the video games, when they have done specifically a Dungeons and Dragons, they've done a tabletop role playing game IP. Pathfinder have also been doing that. Pathfinder Kingmaker, there's things set in their universes as well. There is a Shadowrun game on the Xbox, I think the original Xbox or 360.
Yep.
It's insane. It's like a third person or first person shooter. It's not Shadowrun at all. It has the name, but Baldur's Gate. Back to this. The original like Baldur's Gate games were fantastic. It did give you like isometric kind of sprite art. Around,
good old
isometric
isometric
people, and you controlled an entire party of adventurers. So I think the biggest thing, Baldur's Gate 3 being multiplayer, we're now adding the next recognizable thing about tabletop role playing. And Bryce and I played early access with a good friend of ours, Mitch, and we're so excited to actually start and run through the entire thing now.
Run through the actual proper game now that's out.
Yeah, we had a beautiful experience in early access. So we know what we're in for. I've only played a few hours now, but even the UI, they've adjusted, they've changed it, and it looks very elegant. And it is.
Can you talk about that experience? What made it really interesting? What made it alluring?
Being able to push you off a boat.
There's a certain thing you could do inside of a tabletop RPG where you could say your DM saying you talk to the merchant, and the merchant's having this in-depth conversation, and one of the other players says, "I'm just going to go and steal this stuff," or "I'm just going to cast fireball in the tavern because I can."
I could play it like that.
To have that sort of encounter replicated inside of a game, because when I'm talking to a tradesperson and there's in-depth dialogue, and I see both, our mutual friend Mitch and Jared firing spells at each other and walking in between myself and the character, so all I see is like Jared's character's face right here.
We would deliberately enter the cutscenes and be in the background doing shenanigans. Because when you talk to an NPC, it puts you in a little cutscene dialogue, but the world is still happening around you in real time. It's fantastic. So
amazing.
Baldur's Gate does do kind of like an initiative, like you're in a combat thing. So if you engage with an aggressive NPC or a creature or something, if you're interacting, if your character is interacting with that, you get locked in turn-based combat. Everyone else who technically isn't aware of that or a part of it or has been seen by the enemy is free to move in real time. It's a wonderfully interesting, dynamic, and strategic way to approach it. So that is one unique thing that they've done very elegantly. But I would say, like, it translates well through the personal shenanigans the players bring, because it gives you the platform to do that. You can shove people. You can just fireball your friends for no good reason.
I think
that sounds like
you can kill any NPC you want. It's that kind of a
you can wipe out an entire village to just move on if you really want to.
I feel like Hoju, your comment of just like in real life maybe is getting further back. I hope in real life you are not wiping out villages and fireballing your friends, but hey, no judgment.
RPG game I meant. TTRPG.
You can also like do the things like you'll have one particular person who's very high in charisma and has very high bartering skills talking to a merchant, while the other person who's playing the rogue is literally sneaking around the back and pickpocketing their inventory while they're locked in the cutscene talking to you.
Yeah. You have a good rogue, you don't need to buy things in Baldur's Gate 3. Pro tip.
You don't need to buy anything.
Spoilers.
By the same time, I think also, like, as you play something like that, I definitely feel that the session I ran this week for my players was a little bit inspired. They had all played a bunch more than I had. I've only played a few hours since launch, but the group chat, as we were kind of all assembling at the game store, someone said, guys, we did not use our time between sessions very strategically because they were all playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I said, good thing the DM only played a few hours this week. You're all screwed. We started from the combat we ended the previous session, so they were terrified. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3
beautiful.
It's inspired. It's definitely inspirational, and it opens up. I think it's going to open up a lot more people to Dungeons and Dragons combined with the D&D movie. It's just exploding. 50 years next year, there's a full hardcore documentary coming out. So,
did they mention if it was open source for creating?
I don't
know.
Maps and stuff. For creating your own adventures.
So. No,
I don't think so. Yeah, I think
Sword Legends. Let's just touch on a bit of somewhat forgotten D&D video game history, which is Sword Coast Legends. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it failed. It was meant to be something like this, where you could create a party, go around. It was set in the Sword Coast. And there was like Game Master mode, and you could literally do that and engineer it and create NPCs and stores. And I mean, there's a video of Matt Mercer like mucking around with a bunch of really like, classic YouTubers and stuff, and it's so much fun. So I don't know if we're ever going to get that. Here's the other thing: we're now blurring the lines, right? I think we've touched on like virtual tabletops as well, because you can do the tabletop role playing thing virtually now, with Dungeons and Dragons announcing this year their official virtual tabletop that has 3D animated sprites of all of the official stuff. Let's not get into the discussion of whether this is now playing the game. It's just kind of frustrating, because what they showed in their reveal and everything was everyone behind, like everyone had laptops, and then they were all sat around, and then it was weird because there was a screen literally between people, so I can see it great as online and distance, or like as a display.
Thing as sitting in a circle, everyone on their phones texting.
It's the same. Yeah, you may as well just be texting through the phones. It's just very, very strange that I don't know. They had to show it off somehow, and I think it was the best way they could do it. But we're getting into this weird amalgamation of like what a video game and a role-playing game is. When Bryce and Mitch and I have made our groups, because we all come from D&D actual role-playing roots, we would role-play as our characters that we created. You know, how many people are going to play Skyrim and be like, oh, how's that arrow in your knee? I know, terrible. But, you're not going to do that.
I used to be an adventurer.
You don't care, you're not going to do that, but like our inflection of how we play is really going to come across. Also, touching back on those dialogue options, when you view one of those cutscenes that someone is in a dialogue with, you get to vote on those options. And I believe there's Twitch integration so that Twitch can influence those dialogue options. So,
but I think But I mean, that's the thing. I think it is like that, what you're just talking about really reflects that the way people play games is changing, and it's really, everything is coming together. I mean, I look at the way I play most games, and I play online. So we have a VTT. I think of using something like Tailspire, where it is animated sprites. I would love to use Tailspire. Get a Mac port, but it allows you. Don't get me
Go
into
on. Get it
anyway,
out.
but I mean, that's the thing. I think there is a blurring of line, and I think there is a blurring of expectations. And what I thought was really interesting was when you said that you, Mitch and Bryce, like the three of you play and you role play your characters. But I think of games that I've been in where people really weren't interested in the role play side of things, where they really loved the dice rolls. And, when you get a group of min-maxers and it's all about the numbers, they're not interested. And that is 100% a valid way to play. That could be said to reflect more the video game where you hit the enemy and numbers come out of their head.
You'll see that in games like Warframe and stuff like that, which again is very open to what you can do and have big sprawling maps, but at the same time it is limited to certain planets, and our own solar system, stuff like that. I find that I see that the future of tabletop versus video game, it's going to come to a point where the perfect ending would be you would have a procedurally generated world that the server is close to being, the size of like an apartment building or something. It's because you can have a procedurally generated world like No Man's Sky, but it's as big as the server allows it to be. There's still a limitation. You're never going to explore 14 billion or so planets, but there is a certain limit still. There is a hard limit to which you say, okay, that's it. We can't do any more. And this might be a particular topic that you guys could, branch off from. Is the next step would be VR?
I mean,
I think
completely.
VR gaming.
VR.
You're telling stories. You have devs that create their own maps, stuff like that.
I'll tack into that.
I mean, I think it's interesting because VR.
You get me.
We all get very excited and talk over each other. Welcome back, everybody. Multiple conversations, all simultaneous. For your listening pleasure. So I think VR is really interesting, though, because we talk about immersion. And I'm not sure whose dogs those are, but it's breaking my immersion.
Very sorry. I think that's coming from outside here.
That's yours. Yeah, that is not D and Dogs. But it is. So thinking about VR and immersion, one of the things that when we talk about, tabletop versus video games is tabletop allows you to use your imagination and people can get far more immersed even without the graphics, even without the sound, even without all the bells and whistles. Because they've got so much more creativity and input. I wonder with VR, because it's designed to literally trick your brain into thinking you were there. People fall over wearing VR headsets because you tilt the horizon and their brain can't rationalize it. So I wonder when we get servers and technology that can actually run real time rather than this somewhat blocky VR that we have, I wonder what that will do for role play games. I mean, I don't have an end state, but I believe. Okay, that's a movie. They've made it. But like people role playing.
Yeah, Ready Player One.
Yeah, Ready Player One. Don't get me started on what they did to the ending and they got rid of all the feminist themes. But anyway.
There's a lot that they missed in Ready Player One.
That they messed with.
Again,
however.
budget, movie, time span.
White male producers. Anyway. But yeah, so I think that's really interesting and really exciting.
Yeah. The next level of that, I mean, for next generation fans, Star Trek is holodecks.
Yes.
I mean, that's literally you'll have, hard light.
The world
basically.
simulated around you. Oh, yeah.
It just seems like it changes around you, forced perspective, so it looks like you're looking at distances and everything, and you're in one room the whole time.
Pretty much.
That's insane, but it's amazing. And that also then broadens the limitations, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah. I'm currently a GM for a VR roleplay called Neon Divide.
Ooh.
And that's about to start its mid season between season 3 and season 4. And pretty much that is the whole thing about Neon Divide is pretty much Cyberpunk 2077 with a little bit of Shadowrun mixed in. So it's very interesting to DM via tabletop compared to what a game can do, but to do it live in VR where everyone can move, everyone can swing a sword, everyone can shoot a gun, and to try and respond to people's roles and different things, saying, did I actually get hit? Did I, how fast can I unlock this door? It's all these different challenges and stuff like that. That is a whole separate topic for another time. That is
sounds like a juggling act for sure.
When that technology comes around, we'll talk about it.
So it's very interesting to see, and to be a GM witnessing the difference of people running around and actually doing it for themselves.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there anything that springs to mind that is quite different that you would say in that kind of environment that you've noticed?
Yeah. You can't really stop. Like you can initiate a DM pause, which everyone respects and stops, and it eats up into VR time, it eats up into session time.
Yeah.
But if you stop for one section, you can't stop everyone else.
Yeah.
Because you're focused on this one little encounter or something's happening with this particular group.
Yeah.
It's very fast. You have to be on the ball all the time. And it's not broken down to 6-second intervals like Dungeons and Dragons. So you have your go, then you have your go, and where everyone's all done, the round's done. Everything that's happened in the round has happened simultaneously. You have people shooting at each other, going, it's die, and like
actually simultaneous.
People throwing, blades and swords and casting spells in real time, going, okay.
You know what? That has just sparked a thought. We talked about video games being limited because there's limits to the world and it has to follow a limited storyline and you can only have limited dialogue options. You know what limits tabletop? You can't have simultaneous action because you have one game master who is trying to hold all of this in their head. But it's funny how none of us identified that as a limitation.
Or
it's an
Neon
awesome
Divide.
point.
Yeah, for Neon Divide, they've got over 200 players and I think 11 or 12 GMs.
Yeah, wow.
And that's
over like 4 maps.
That's the funny thing about it too. It's the actual limitation of the video game is because it's styled very specifically for a type of experience and it can be real time. And that's the thing, because it's like, well, if this is Cyberpunk, you're going to be able to try and hack into something while people are shooting at you at the same time. So we've thought ahead to make sure you can do that, which is like, and it happens in real time and you don't have to worry about it as a DM because it's just all happening. The computer's the DM in that case.
Yeah.
And it is again, it's that kind of a boutique experience, a tailored experience, very specific. So this is what I can do and this. Yeah, you're right. You can't do that real time kind of stuff in a combat in D&D for sure. It doesn't work.
Everything has to be segmented. Everything needs to be slowed down. So there are positives and negatives for games versus tabletop. Kind of circling back to the very beginning, it's there are very different things that make each version of telling a story and living within that story unique to different platforms, whether it be VR, whether it be Baldur's Gate, or whether it be sitting down or sitting online with a bunch of your friends and having a GM tell a story. It's
and that experience Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
it's how you go about it. It's how it's what you make of it in the end.
yeah. I mean, Lost brings up a good point in the chat as well, that you do have turn-based RPGs in video games as well.
Yeah, JRPGs.
Even though the computer, it's in the computer. Even though the processor is able to simultaneously resolve all of those.
Mhm.
It's coming down to the wetware, the human limitation.
Well, that's it, which is a perfect segue for what I'm going to tack on, which is going to be absolutely the future of all gaming, and most of our realities, which is going to be AI. I have to just chuck it in there because
Absolutely, no question, no.
got to do it.
Actually, there's something on that.
As soon as you tack this into any of the things that we've talked about tonight, basically an NPC interaction that would normally be between a game master pretending to be a weird shopkeeper and the player. As soon as you now give a dialogue, a language model to a virtual character, it's being done. You can check it out. You can make a video game character that will talk to you in real time. You can even use your microphone. So, imagine going into one of these VR worlds, and it's going to be scary because you ain't going to know who is actual wetware and who is pure AI.
They've done it.
Yeah.
They have done it already, and there's a world. There's a world you can go to that someone created where you could sit down and talk to a priest, and the priest is fueled by ChatGPT.
Wow.
And they will talk to you about philosophy, life. They will just talk to you.
Yeah.
Forever. As long as you give conversation, they will talk to you in real time. It's insane.
That's interesting. So Hoju in the chat has said AI NPCs coupled with VR and a game master setting up a scenario would be interesting. And I think we've actually done a little bit of that with our AI game master game.
We've dabbled.
We've dabbled. But I think Loz's point of will it ever be as funny, that is a very good point, because I think humor, AI is yet to be able to replicate on purpose. I mean, we certainly had some laughs with our AI game master.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, the hallucination. There's lots of bugs to work out, but I guess like relatability, authenticity. I do know some people who have come from World of Warcraft role playing, not just playing the game, but role playing in it, and they have got an entire Discord server with a back end AI that makes all these decisions, and they role play, and they've engineered it to do what they want to do in their experience. But AI isn't going to be able to look you in the eye from across the table and actually know that they have triggered something in you, not in a bad way, but like, I mean, this week I possessed the wizard,
get a genuine
with a ghost
response.
and stuff like
Inspired
that.
something
That's
in
the
someone.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You've actually tried to convey a particular emotion, and I wanted to convey to the wizard of my D&D party this week helplessness, so they got possessed by a ghost, and it was terrifying, and they hated it, and it was horrible. But at the end of it, they were like, man, you put me through the ringer. They were like, you put me through the ringer. It was a great session. And it's like, is AI ever going to do that with face recognition? Maybe, but goddamn, where's the intent, right?
I would hazard to say, and we've talked about this before, it keeps coming up. That player, I don't know who it is, but they would only go through that because they trusted you, and that's something you don't know who an AI DM is.
100%.
You don't know what the limits of their ethics are and what it is. It's like
intentions.
But we also know
you can't
people
get that on outside of a tabletop. Yeah,
I mean, there's a whole area of psychology that talks about people's difficulty trusting machines. I mean, it goes all the way back to pilots not trusting terrain avoidance because on a fundamental level, we have that need to connect to a human. And I would say it even needs to be across the table. I can convey the same kind of intensity through a camera to some of my remote players. You know, I could have someone who's in love or is terrified and is looking through, and it doesn't need to be across the table.
No, it's face to face. Whatever format that takes,
personal
without a virtual
interaction
avatar or something else. Yeah.
You find it in VR as well, where you will be interacting with another character, and even though you can't feel physical touch, well, depending on what you wear and the bodysuits that you wear in the future,
haptic suits, baby.
you know, but you know, you can stare into somebody, and every VR model that is for RP that I've seen has different facial expressions that you can toggle different things, or ones soon with the new VR sets that are coming out, they'll have eye tracking. They'll be having, soon will be facial tracking.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people will actually be able to see on your avatar the expressions you have, and you'll be bridging that gap closer and closer and closer to having.
But we don't even need much, right?
I
can look at a 2D sprite and I'm going to assign emotional responses to it.
Projection. Yeah.
100%. I'm super into this survivor-like game, which is one of these games where you roam around a map and more enemies come and you build up your guns and you level up. It's not even a role-playing game. It's pure just mayhem and you just try and survive. That is my world right now. That is the video game, and it is like, or like an insane one like Tarkov. But like, there's like maybe like a handful of enemies. The way that it's set up, the world, you have a limited field of vision. You start with a basic weapon. You work towards it. You pull some close maneuvers. You're fully invested in it, and that is a 2D top-down, very very basic game. But it's been put together in a beautiful way. So, shout out to. Shout out to Undertale. I literally had it as I was saying it, and now I've lost it, and my Steam isn't even on my thing. Disfigure.
Project Zomboid?
Okay.
Disfigure.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of Steam,
video games.
We'll put the links in there. We'll put them on the socials.
Steam. Right now.
But running out thereof, but more so running out thereof of time.
Having fun.
Well, I had a wrap-up question, if that helped.
I do love a wrap-up question.
Because particularly for you, Jared, and for you, Bryce, because you're putting this game together. And I love what you said earlier, Thea, about expectations of a game. Now that you're coming into this, guys, what is it that you are most looking forward to or you expect to get out of this adventure together as a group into Baldur's Gate 3? What are you looking
Getting
forward to?
them set on fire by a dragon.
I was going, this is beautiful. Okay.
Immolation.
Okay.
I want to see if I can get both of my friends killed by a dragon by just some dialogue that I'm doing.
You're going to wake up on a very soggy mattress and it's going to be the tongue of a dragon.
This is going in an interesting direction. I'm
you literally
not
nailed
sure
it.
I'm comfortable.
All right. You nailed it on the head, Bryce. I was going to say one word, shenanigans, because what Baldur's Gate has actually achieved, in my opinion, is a platform for a very, very relatable player versus player, not player versus player, just the chaos that is individual people trying to cooperate towards a common goal. But
that sounds really cool.
I cast Thunderstep. Well, that blasted you off the edge into oblivion.
Off the edge of a cliff.
But I also
blasted
the goblins.
And I had the spell. Why didn't you do anything about it?
And now we need a raised dead. And
I mean,
I'm so glad you said the shenanigans thing. Just look on like social media at the moment for people who are playing it. Some of the stuff that's come up, a group of people playing bears. Have you heard of this? There's something about these people playing a group of bears is one thing. Matt Mercer's TTRPG inspired solution to a particular issue. I don't know if you've seen about this. Yeah.
That is fantastic.
It's great. But Baldur's Gate 3 is capable of being able to engage in this. So I'm fascinated what you guys come up with as well.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
We want to hear stories of this.
It's going to be public. We're all going to hate each other by the end of it. So it's going to be fantastic.
This is going to be this season's thing. Last season was Curse of Strahd. This season?
Yeah. I literally just said, we'll chuck it on a cozy stream one day. Like, the boys and I will get on. It'll be a great time because we did stream on Bryce's channel and on the Game Master Chef channel, our early access playthrough, which was an absolute blast. But I stream once a week. It's good. We do this, but we'll chuck it up. It'll be fun.
We'll do a playthrough of it.
Well, we should do a playthrough and we'll just do commentary over the top while you guys are playing. You can't hear us. We'll be like the omniscient. I love this idea.
I'll enable the Twitch integration, okay? You can interact with the world.
The interesting thing is you can create characters which you can drop in, drop out to other players' campaigns. I'm pretty sure you can do that.
No, I love the idea of just these omnipotent
Or
commentators.
is it all set?
No, they were very, very clear that they won't let you create an individual. Like in Valheim, you can create a character in one world and then play that character in another world, which is kind of broken because
it's a set thing.
yeah, because imagine there's one powerful ring that gives us all 17 intelligence or something, and then we all play wizards from our own universes. We all play until we get that ring.
It's broken,
decimate a campaign. Now, here's the thing. That's also fun. It's just not the way that they want it to. They feel like it's going to break the game. There's too many variables. So they've said, sorry, no. Because also it's spoilers.
And shenanigans for everyone from Auntie Mimi.
You come from the end of the game going to someone's new game going, yeah.
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 But welcoming Auntie Mimi.
Yeah.
Shenanigans. Wait, no, shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
Take a moment while I learn how to talk again.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
But what you can actually do is every Baldur's Gate 3 party is 4 players, and you can hot swap with the NPC characters that you can have in your party, which is all sorts of fun. You engage with them. Yeah, and you can bring in your own unique custom one as you launch your world, because you do play your character and 3 other NPCs if you wanted to in your party as a solo run. But Bryce can join and play one of those characters. And Bryce, Mitch, and I can create our own characters, and we'll have one of these NPCs along with us. If a 4th player wants to join, they can take control over that character or any of the other NPC characters. So
they can
have allowed
possess the character.
Yes.
Let's call it that. I like your term possession for that
You're going to come in and possess it. Let's give it a little darker edge.
Well, I think we're going to need a follow-up episode to find out how you guys go down the track.
I've had so much fun talking with all of you. I'd love to come back if you'll have me. There's so much to talk about. There's VR. I could give you stories about Neon Divide. That's going to be starting up. There's a dry run actually is going to be this weekend, Australian time. So on Saturday. So it's going to be
watch or
no, people stream it. People
Send
stream
me links, Bryce.
Neon Divide.
We'll chuck that out on our socials. The Undivide.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, Neon Divide.
The Neon
Speaking of
Divide.
socials.
Yeah. We have them. They're out there.
People should join us. We have them.
Check it out.
Thank you guys for joining us.
If you haven't
We're going to do
joined
an
them.
outro now.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a blast.
And if there's anything horror related, please. I love talking about everything horror related.
We still have to revisit that Blades in the Dark plan. Speaking
Yeah.
of mild horror.
Yeah.
You know what?
All right,
Bryce
guys,
for a
we
crazy
have
stream.
60 seconds before it goes to an ad break before
Not
we
snoozed.
do a very quick
Denied.
wrap up, and then we're going to have an ad break for anyone who is not. Oh, you snoozed it. Everyone in chat, we're getting used to being affiliates. We feel such a we're so important.
Great. Great. It's like getting the pen license. It's the big
But
step.
yes. I didn't get my pen
I don't know.
license.
I never got one of those. That wasn't around. It
I don't
wasn't a
even think
thing.
I did
But that's a
either.
whole other story.
Anyway,
We should wrap.
Back in my day, we
Anyway.
wrote in chalks and slate.
That's right. That's it. We made licenses. That's it. Yeah.
Ian, help us. This is going
All right.
off the rails.
Guys, thank you so much. Big thank you, Bryce, for joining us this week. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
Thank you very much for having me.
Amazing conversation. I think there's more to come for this. We'll have a catch up again down the line to see how you guys go.
Looking forward to it.
It's fascinating, this whole discussion of I think it's great that we've kind of seen the differences and the value of the differences between TTRPGs versus video games and what we look forward to, the expectations. So thank you everyone for joining us in our chat this week. It's been a blast to see you again and sort of our new people who've joined us, and for our returning. We love you guys. Thanks so much for coming back on. Share the word. Check out socials. Thea, where's the best place to get our socials for TSP?
That's a really good question. We have socials. Oh, no, the command's not working. I got it wrong. But we have Facebook. We have Discord. Please do join. That's not how you spell it
We'll be
either.
on that afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, no.
We'll be on that
Discord.
afterwards, guys, if you've got any questions.
We also have a YouTube. But the YouTube is a season behind, but it is coming. If you want to go back, but join us on the YouTube, join us on Facebook, join the Discord, continue the conversation. It is all, we love you guys. We love chatting. And I know that sounds like, oh my God, I love you guys. Like and subscribe. But we do. We love you when people participate in this.
Yes,
as you can probably tell, we can talk underwater. But we need someone with some sanity to join us, or just a different brand of insanity.
That's how we go.
And that was actually really good.
Hey.
I liked that. That was
and on
pretty
that
good.
note,
But
we'll
yes,
see you guys next week.
we will see you next week. We are going to raid someone. So if you wonderful people would do your farewells while I find us an awesome... Oh, GM Workshop, one of our favourite friends, is currently playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Hey, perfect
Shall
segue. Fantastic.
Nice.
If you want to know
set up the raid.
Guys.
Stick around.
Thank you again, Bryce. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll see you again
so
next
much.
week, everyone.
Love you. Bye.
6:30 next
Bye.
week. Back to 6:30 next
back
week.
to 6:30. Bye.